Hey everybody, welcome to this Tiny Tuesday painting. Today I'm having a rose done in watercolors. I'm very happy that it's March because that means watercolors, and watercolors is one of my favorite media. Yeah. So I'm starting off with a wet paper here. I just spritzed it with a spray bottle, and then I'm coloring in the background with a cold yellow and a warm yellow. The warm yellow will be towards the center because there I plan to have the petals of the rose, it's plural, not singular, and therefore I want to have a warmer tint of yellow there because I want to have an orangey yellow kind of a rose. I don't want to have a red one. So once I had everything dried off, I did use this tiny stencil here to use as guidelines for my rose, and with watercolor pencils in this warm yellow orangey kind of a color, I just go around the sections that will be shaded for the rose petals, and only have a thin line on the highlight sections of the rose petals just to know where they end. And once I liquefy that, you could hardly see the lines on the highlights, and pretty much the rose comes together with just the shadowy parts there. For the petals, the leaves I should say, I do the same thing with a dark green. I first thought, maybe I choose a light green, but since you can only see the dark veins on the leaves, I decided to just have them marked with the dark green pencil, and I will use way more light green later and color everything in there. So here I go. I'm using the light green pencil to color in this the leaves, and then I work a bit more on the petals of the rose before I take a thin brush and just liquefy the watercolor pencil on all of the petals and stuff. So it's fairly simple. But I really like this technique, having a very blurry, blotchy kind of a background and then using watercolor pencils on top, especially on tiny surfaces, to have the focal point be painted in and have way more control than with other ways to, well, have a tiny painting done with watercolors. I could have taken the same watercolor pens that I did use for the background, but then again, it would have been way more difficult to control the flow of the color than it is with the watercolor pencils. This way you pretty much just liquefy the pigment that you put down. You're not so much, well, painting as you sometimes do. Well, I don't know what to call it. It's a different kind of a way to paint with watercolors if you use them from a pen or tube, or if you just is quote unquote just liquefy watercolor pencil pigment. You control the medium way better this way, and watercolors are pretty difficult to control. So I really like this technique when it comes to tiny surfaces there. Once I had that color dried, I did take a bit of a bigger brush and went over the highlight sections with more of that warm yellow that I also use for the center of the background, and just did put in some pigment there. And then I used a warm red and just dabbed in some pigment on some of the petals to have a bit of a stronger shadow there. I'm using only very little water to prevent any blooming or the color going anywhere on the painting that I don't want to have it go to. So I'm really careful there to drop in the colors that I need. I'm doing the same thing for the leaves, using a dark green, a warm green, and a tiny bit of a cold green there to just have different shades of a mid-tone or a dark green and have it blend together with the yellow from the background, which then makes natural highlights there. I'm also dropping in a bit of a cold brown. It's a sepia brown to have it look a bit more, well, rustic and old, maybe vintage is the right word, I don't know. And then I'm drying everything off before I take the paper from the paper pad. I'm using a palette knife there to just get around the gummed parts of the pad, and then I glue the whole thing to my cardstock that I always use for the Tiny Tuesdays. Now the paper is bigger, a tiny bit bigger than the cardstock, so I'm just cutting everything down that I don't need. I'm getting rid of the excess, that's what it's called. And then I will check how my focal point is positioned, and I don't like the lowest section there with these two half leaves that you can see there. So I'm liquefying first of all the stem on those leaves, just getting some water flowing. Then I'm adding some more lemon yellow, and still I don't like it, so I decided, okay, I'm gonna use some of that sepia brown that I also used in the leaves and give it kind of a earthy look or a vintage look, depending on what you associate with the color sepia, dumping in a lot of that brown color and then blotting away quite a bit. So this makes it look like a coffee stained painting or something. Again, I dry it off and the paper wants to go everywhere, but I try to, well, keep it on the table. And then I'm adding more of that sepia brown, but with way more water than I had before. On the left hand side, I also added some brown and liquefied it quite a bit, gave it a frame to have another side of the painting that has this vintage kind of a look. Once everything was dry, I went around some of the petals with a warm red watercolor pencil. I'm not gonna liquefy that, I'm gonna leave it at that. Sign my name and the year I'm painting this piece in, and then I'm done. Oh no, I liquefied it, I forgot. But I'm blotting away. On the lower the petals, I did not liquefy. There's still unliquefied pigment there. But then I sign it, and that's that. I hope you enjoyed watching along. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the comment section below. There's lots of close-up photos and information on materials that I used on my blog, so hop on over if you're interested. I will see you tomorrow with a new Draw for Initiative, and next Tuesday with a new Tiny Tuesday. Bye!